All right, let's talk about something weird, something you've probably noticed yourself. We're calling it the millionaire's free lunch. So let's just jump right in. Why do some people who have tons of money act so incredibly cheap? You know what I'm talking about, right? You've seen the headlines. Maybe you've even seen it happen in real life. What is going on there? I mean, we're talking about things that just don't make sense, like hoarding toilet paper from a public restroom, or even trying to get free food from a food bank that's clearly meant for people who are struggling. It seems completely illogical, but underneath it all, there's this really fascinating mix of, well, psychology and something a bit deeper, maybe even a kind of spiritual hunger. Okay, so to really get this, we've got to start with the brain. Think of it like this. For a lot of these folks, their brain is running old, outdated survival software on brand new, high-powered hardware. It's a glitch. It's this idea called poverty memory. So imagine if you grew up with serious scarcity, not knowing where the next meal was coming from. Your brain's alarm system, this little part called the amygdala, it can get completely stuck in overdrive. So even when you're surrounded by wealth, that little alarm is just screaming, "Danger, we're losing stuff." It's a survival instinct that literally cannot find the off switch. And this memory shows up in a few key ways. First, there's this scarcity trait, just this deep, nagging fear that you'll never have enough. Then there's the dopamine hit. You know, that little rush of pleasure you get from gaining something for free. It feels like a win, and the brain loves that feeling. And finally, there's this overextended logic. The exact same penny-pinching habits that helped them build their wealth in the first place get applied everywhere, even in situations where it's totally inappropriate. But here's the kicker. It's not always about having a poor background. Sometimes just being rich can actually rewire your brain. There's this famous Monopoly study by a psychologist named Paul Piff. He basically rigged the game. He gave one player double the money, 2 dice instead of 1, a huge, unfair advantage right out of the gate. And what happened? Well, the rich player almost immediately got louder, started acting more arrogant, even ate the snacks more obnoxiously. It's wild. And this is the really critical takeaway from that study. Just having an advantage, even one you did absolutely nothing to earn, creates this powerful illusion that you deserve it. The players actually started to believe they were better at the game and deserved to win. You can see how that sense of entitlement could easily bleed over into feeling entitled to, say, public resources, right? Okay, and there's one last psychological twist to this whole thing. It's called moral licensing. The idea is if you do something really good, like say donate a bunch of money to charity, your brain subconsciously gives you a little hall pass to do something small and selfish later. It's like it's saying, hey, I was a good person over there, so I've totally earned the right to take this extra handful of napkins. So, okay, we've got a pretty solid psychological case here, right? Brain glitches, entitlement, moral licensing, it all makes a certain kind of sense. But what if that's not the whole story? What if there's something deeper going on? I mean, really, is it just a survival instinct that's gone haywire? Is it just a sense of entitlement? Or could there be something else at play here? Something more? See, the psychology stuff is great at explaining how it happens, the brain's programming, the dopamine hits, but it doesn't really get to the why. To get there, we need to shift our focus from the brain's programming to, let's call it, the soul's energy. We have to ask a really important question. What if this isn't about a lack of money, but a lack of something else entirely? And this brings us to this really incredible concept from the philosopher Wenbing. It's called Xin-Qi, that's pronounced like Shin-Qi, and it basically means heart ki or heart energy. You can think of it as your inner spiritual battery. Now, when that energy, that Xin-Qi, is weak or low, a person feels this inner void, this kind of bitterness, and they get this compulsion to take little things from the outside world to try and patch up that hole inside. And one of the sources for this explainer puts it just perfectly. It says, many rich people still take small things because their money hasn't brought nourishment to their soul. And that just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It gets right to the core of the issue. A full bank account and a nourished soul are two completely different things. All right, so if the real problem is this weak inner energy, this lack of heart chi, how do you fix it? How do you charge that battery? Well, the answer is kind of beautiful, and it's totally counterintuitive. It's not about getting more. It's about the power of refusal. Yeah, the cure isn't about accumulating more stuff. It's the exact opposite. It's about making a conscious choice, an intentional decision to refuse that little unearned advantage. Every single time you say, no, I don't need that, or I'll pass, you're actually doing a rep for your soul. You're strengthening that heart chi. And what happens is, when that inner energy gets strong enough, your whole perspective flips. A little handout or a freebie, it stops feeling like a win. It actually starts to feel like an insult to your dignity, to your self-sufficiency. It's a mindset that literally rewrites that old primitive scarcity software in your brain. You stop operating from fear and you start living from a place of real, deep inner abundance. So where does this all lead? I mean, what's the end game here? Well, building up this inner strength, it does way more than just make you feel good about yourself. It actually leads to a state that's described as glowing. The term is fagwong, pronounced fagwong, and it literally means to glow or to radiate light. But this glow has absolutely nothing to do with money or power. It's the kind of positive, attractive energy that you radiate when other people genuinely admire and approve of your character, your integrity, your dignity, that quiet self-respect. And the effects of this glowing state are just profound. You start to attract positive energy, positive people into your orbit. You start earning respect for who you are, not just for what you have in the bank. You radiate this inner fullness that makes that little urge to take things just disappear. And that is how you build real, deep, lasting social trust. Which brings us to the core idea, the big takeaway from all of this. True wealth isn't about what you have. It's not what you can get. True wealth is about what you can refuse, with dignity. That is the ultimate sign of abundance. So I want to leave you with this final thought. This isn't about making some grand, heroic gesture. It always starts small. So the question for you is, what's one tiny, unearned advantage you could consciously refuse today? What's one small thing you could say no to start building that inner energy and to start to glow?